Thursday, the 29th day of September, 2011. We're going to be live here for the next 3 hours. Now, you remember Michael Allison? He was facing life in prison. That's life in prison for videotaping and audio taping the police and others in public. Now, the state attorney came down to the county he was in, the Boss Hogdom that he lives in, little Boss Hogville, and said, we want him to spend life in prison with a straight face. The judge threw it out. Now, if I told you there were thousands of cases of police charging people for videotaping them in public, that would be an understatement. There are thousands a year. We've looked it up. We can't get the exact number, but Illinois, I saw a press report a few days ago, has charged more than 500 people this year so far. In fact, there are so many of these out of Illinois that Jaron did a search of it today, and there were articles just all over the place. So many of them that it made our head spin. We thought we were calling one guy it had happened to, and it turned out it was another guy, but then he knew another guy it was happening to who knew another guy. Chicago's artist protest backfires as he faces 15 years in jail because he recorded his own arrest on video. That's the Daily Mail. That's another guy. Okay. Then there's this report. Cops try to hit Illinois man with 15-year jail sentence, and it's consecutive. So if they charge you like Allison with 6 or 7 counts, it's life in prison. Cops try to hit Illinois man with 15-year jail sentence for recording traffic stop. Despite clear legal precedent, nationwide hoax that it's illegal to film cops prevails. And we have a little newscast here where the media people, I mean, now there's no doubt that 12 states know this is not illegal. I've read the statute in Illinois here on air, and it says nothing about videotaping and audio taping people in public. It is in areas that are perceived to be private, like your home or behind closed doors in your office, where both parties are not informed. Okay? Wiretapping is putting a wiretap on somebody without their consent. By the way, how does OnStar get away with listening to people in their cars in all 50 states without warrants and selling it to the police and selling it to the feds and tracking everywhere you go and selling it to insurance companies? That's all admitted now. I told you 12 years ago because I was contacted by an engineer and went over the technology, and a few years later it did come out the FBI was using it without warrants. Now it's just admitted, hey, even if you turned it off, we're listening to you. Even if you don't pay the bill and say, I don't want this. You buy a car, they said, you want us to activate the OnStar. I remember, again, I told you, this must have been 10 years ago. I bought a Tahoe out at Covert Country, and I went out there because I knew Roger Raisler. I don't think he works there anymore. The little brother of my high school friends. Roger Raisler was a UT football player, a successful UT football player, big guy. Point is, I go out there, I buy the car, and I say, now I want you to go into the dash and remove the cell phone system. And they were like, Alex, come on, you just don't enable it. I'm like, no, it'll be used to listen to me. And they all laughed at me, but said, all right, we'll take it around back and have them do it and come back in a few hours. Again, because I live in the real world. I actually know that we have a criminal government. That, because believe me, OnStar, General Motors would not be doing that, and General Motors is now the government, would not be doing that unless they've been given government authorization and have been pressured to do it. And it's all part of a global standardization moving everybody into that. And I actually have some news articles concerning this today. But to make a long story short, Google admits now 6 years ago, 2005, we wrote articles about it, from their own press release. Google, to the stockholders, put out a press release, is how we knew, saying we've got new software that when you download our dashboard system or use our systems, we can dial in and listen via the microphone, or in the future, all computers we believe, and now they have, will have basically built-in cameras. Which, again, is a double-edged sword. It's saying talk to your wife, talk to your husband, do TV, do, whatever. It's like something out of 2001 Space Odyssey where you make the phone call and it's video. But the point is, they've got it jacked in where when you use their services, they have basically a digital connection and a cookie that's connected to that connection where they can open up and watch you and listen to you. And Google said, don't worry, it's a computer listening to everything you're doing. And it said, if a dog's barking in the background while you're on the computer, we sell that data to people that might want to have dog food ads pop up on websites you visit that have Google ads. It's not just locating off of your geographic location with cookies, and then you're like, wow, they're advertising, you know, every restaurant within 2 miles of my house. How do they know that? Well, you're on sites and they've geolocated you, and they're advertising those at you. And it's not just Google; it's Facebook. They're all doing it, and it's back in the news. We got a bunch of new developments here today on that front. I've got some Homeland Security news out of Green Bay, but before I get to that, let me bring up some older Green Bay news for you. It's in Matrix of Evil, 2003. It's free online if you want to watch it, or you can support us and buy the DVD. Of course, the film has Ron Paul in it and more. And I just read in there, in a speech I give from the Green Bay newspaper, where the governor was given a tour to the media of one of the first threat fusion centers in the country that was public. And he said, look here, we just type in your name. He showed the reporters, the mayor of Wisconsin, the governor of Wisconsin at the time. And he said, look, I just tracked where you are and a cell phone in your pocket. And it freaked out the people that were there enough that later they tried to pull that story. But that's what they've got all over the country. The cops know what pizza you ordered yesterday. They know how fast you drove. They know everything through these, quote, services you pay for. It's by federal regulations that all the cell phones are tracking you in real time, where you are, what you're doing. They punch one button, it dials in, and they know where you are, what you're doing. They can listen to you. And it does violate federal and state wiretapping laws. They've not overturned those laws. It was federal regulations to manufacturers that all of this be built-in standard. So they're not going to get in any trouble for this. They're not going to get in any trouble for doing all of this. You have to understand that. Because they're the system. They selectively enforce. But when you protest that you don't have a right to protest without a permit, and that turns a privilege into, it turns a right into a privilege, and you get arrested and you videotape it, you're going to go to jail. Now, clearly the statute doesn't say that. It's official oppression. It's unlawful arrest. It's false arrest. It's racketeering. It's a civil rights violation. I mean, this is like North Korean level super creepy tyranny. And the cops all over the country, it's being overturned by federal and state courts hundreds and hundreds of times, and they don't care. And in some cases, people fall through the cracks. They don't get the right lawyer. They don't know their rights. Hundreds of people, in fact, we're going to do a report on it, if not tomorrow, next week. Hundreds of people have served sentences or are in jail right now that we know of in these 12 states that are doing this, because the jury didn't understand the law, the judge was corrupt, and let it go forward, and they're being sent to jail for videotaping police in public. In one of the cases I saw, it was in Maryland, where the cops were 200 yards away beating someone, and somebody videotaped it, and the cops just came over and arrested them and took them to jail too. And that person served a year-long plus sentence, and we're working on getting them on. In America, the cops know full well you have a First Amendment right in public to videotape them. Or when they pull you over, you have a right to videotape them. And in 12 states, at the state government level, they have made conscious decisions, and in the morning briefings have told the state police and others, somebody videotapes you, you take them to jail, we're going to charge them. And we don't care if the law doesn't really say this. We're tired of being videotaped. We're going to send a chilling effect. And they go out as an organized crime operation to violate your civil rights in a focused, conscious way. It doesn't get any more creepy and criminal. Now, 38 states don't do this. Texas is amongst them. where the police honor the First Amendment. But I shouldn't even have to say thank you for doing your job. I mean, that's just a given. They did lose a lot of lawsuits all over the state back in 99, 2000. There were hundreds. There were more than 15 or so at the time in Austin that they lost. Back then, they would come up and say, turn your camera off or I'm going to arrest you. And I'd say, why? You're interfering with a police officer's duty. And I'd be like, I'm 100 yards away from you in that checkpoint. You want me to move back? I'll be reasonable, but do you think it's reasonable for me to move back? They're like, turn that camera off. You've seen the tapes with Mike Hansen and myself. They're on YouTube. And I'll go, okay, I'm going to have to sue you. You know that this is wrong. And if you take me to jail, I'll beat the rap. I won't beat the ride. But you're not going to beat the ride either. And I'll say to them, you've seen the videos. I'll say, do you want to lose your house and jet ski? You make the decision right now. You make the call. And every time the cop goes, all right, whatever. But again, why should I have to sit there and talk to you like that? Why are you in my face? I'm going to videotape you. Just like you've got your cameras up everywhere, videotaping us and license plate scanning us and everything else. All right, but point is, there are literally thousands of people being charged right now in 12 states. I'm seeing cases where cops come in your business and for the surveillance cameras, if they have audio, they're clapping people in irons. And again, it's getting thrown out of court 99% of the time. I'm going to finish up with this, get to the latest developments. Chuck Norris has come out big time against the New World Order.